What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today is Bitcoin Pizza Day. 12 years ago, somebody bought Bitcoin Pizza for 10,000 Bitcoin. They bought two pizzas, and they spent 10,000 Bitcoin on it, and it was in 2010. Bitcoin was dirt cheap, and it was the first transaction to really have economic value for Bitcoin, to show that this thing could be traded for real goods in the real world. And it was a pretty big moment for Bitcoin. So even though the person who spent 10,000 Bitcoin is looking back at that saying, I would have had $300 million, it was still a very important event to have it actually be done. So, and back then, would he have held? Would he have done writ? Would he have forgotten a password, have lost it? So many variables there, but it would be a $300 million pizza today, which is a little expensive, but also puts into perspective the price range of Bitcoin and how just over periods of time the price goes up, and the amount of money that Bitcoin is at today, people view it as either super expensive or worthless. But then in the future, like we see today, 30K compared to 10, 12 years ago is a massively different amount of money. But you can see that Tyler Winklevoss, one of the Winklevi twins, tweeting about Bitcoin Pizza Day. In just a shorter time period, 2 years ago, price of Bitcoin was $9,000 on Bitcoin Pizza Day. And today, the price is $30,000. Perspective. So always, when you think Bitcoin is super expensive and overpriced and all of these things, in a short term, sure, maybe it will be. In a longer term, people look back and say, wow, Bitcoin was cheap. Just like we look back at Bitcoin at a dollar and say, I wish I would have got Bitcoin at a dollar, and $10 and $1,000 and $10,000, $20,000. People in a few years, people are gonna be looking back saying, "I wish I would have just bought Bitcoin at $30,000." It's always been this cycle of always moving forward. The price has always been thought of, you're too late, it's overpriced, it's not worth it this time, and then continues to move up. So we'll see what happens. Price, time will tell, but time has typically told that the price goes up. There's also a good cartoon about it saying 2010, one pizza is 10,000 Bitcoin, and 2022, 10,000 pizzas is one Bitcoin. So a little bit of a perspective there too. You flip it. One day you're paying 10,000 Bitcoin for one pizza. The next day you're paying one Bitcoin for 10,000 pizzas. So, but looking at Bitcoin outside of today's holiday, the Bitcoin Pizza Day, we can see a little bit of technicals for Bitcoin bouncing off of these levels. Maybe in hindsight it'll seem so obvious. Maybe in hindsight these levels, 29K, 30K, will seem like, wow, those were great buying opportunities. The times when people were calling for Bitcoin to go to 10K was the time you should have been buying. But we can see, looking at this, the first time Bitcoin broke it, a huge rally, came down, tested it, bounced, went to new all-time highs. The major crash, bounced off of it again to, and again, new all-time highs, and kind of bleeding out. And then the Terra event crashed to it, and now we're capitulating around this. But are we going to bounce over it to yet again new all-time highs for Bitcoin? It's completely possible. Whales are buying Bitcoin. Regular people are buying Bitcoin, stacking Bitcoin. All these wallet addresses with $100 worth of Bitcoin have been skyrocketing. The whale addresses have been moving up. So I think we could definitely see Bitcoin capitulate here for a long period of time. Just how everything else in the world is right now, in the market, the Fed danger, the inflation danger, all these scares could very easily keep Bitcoin kind of capitulating here. But the longer that it capitulates here, it could mean the higher that it moves in price. So you see, the last times we've touched it and moved up, and we didn't really spend time here. Now spending time here, a lot of people are continuing to stack sats, continuing to buy Bitcoin no matter what, and the whales are continuing to get in Bitcoin, continue to pile in long. We see Bitfinex whales just piling in Bitcoin longs. So maybe this time we capitulate for a longer period of time, but then the move up is just going to be massive. And despite China banning Bitcoin mining, that can't stop Bitcoin as it returns to the number 2 hash rate provider in the world, even though Bitcoin mining is banned there. So the tried to ban it from a billion people, and they already failed. So you can see the headline: Bitcoin production roars back in China despite Beijing's ban on crypto mining. You can't ban crypto. You can't ban Bitcoin because obviously it's decentralized. No one's in charge. No one can shut it down. No one can stop it from working. But you can only ban yourself from Bitcoin. And we see China tried to do that and they failed. And China is the one country, the super authoritarian country, that would be able to try to prevent people from using Bitcoin. And they weren't even able to do that. They weren't even able to stop people from mining Bitcoin, which is way easier to detect than it is to detect a Bitcoin transaction or someone buying Bitcoin or holding Bitcoin. So if they couldn't even stop the Bitcoin ban and stay on that, then there's no way they can ban people using Bitcoin or holding Bitcoin or storing it. They just can't do it. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, that, it's just unstoppable, and the government, just no matter how much they try, they just can't do anything about it. And if we look at the Bitcoin price here, or the price chart, we could see the capitulation a bit better. Kind of, you see it's just moving up and down. We had the massive bottom of 25K, where the Luna event, all of that just threw crypto down the drain. It really went down far. And this was the bottom we got after $3 billion or 80,000 Bitcoin being sold off on the market. Luna struggling, doing all this stuff, to the maximum fear event we could have got. We got. And it only brought Bitcoin down to 25K for a short period of time and hovering around $30,000 now. And you can see the capitulation here, just kind of hovering, moving up, moving down, going sideways, big down, big up, and kind of just, it's absolutely moving sideways. So I don't think, Bitcoin can really try to rally in the way the market is right now with how everything is going on. So I wouldn't expect it to try and break up and break into like 32, 33K and kind of get up here. I would expect it much more to go sideways, trade sideways for a long time, maybe until we get some sort of good news, or we get a recession declared, or we get that kind of news out of the way. So that after a recession declared, that pretty much means we would have already been in one and we'd be about halfway through. So we couldn't have a couple more pain, a little bit more pain ahead, but ultimately the biggest pain would be behind us, and maybe that instills confidence in investors and stuff. Investing during a recession is the best time to invest. Everything is at dirt cheap prices. So maybe that's the outcome we see, where that news comes up and then everything starts moving up. Or we have to wait a little bit longer and wait for inflation to start coming down and then things can move up. So either one would kind of work. But if this is just going to take some time. So, 28K to 33K, if we stay in this range for the next couple of months, I think it would be pretty normal. And I think it would also act as a way for Bitcoin to kind of charge up, where last time, like we saw, it came down and touched 29K and bounced up new all-time highs. This time we're hovering around 29K, 30K. And if that stays for a long period of time, you have a lot of people stacking at these levels, and that's a lot of supply off the market. If it starts rallying up and demand comes in, then the price will rocket up because there's just not the supply there. And then that originally would have been just kind of another slightly higher new all-time high, maybe is a blast through higher all-time high of like over 100,000 or Bitcoin, or going like over the six figures, and we'll see how Bitcoin interacts up there. But if it stays here long enough, then the supply can get constrained and put into strongholders' hands, because the only people buying right now are strongholders or people who believe in Bitcoin. There's no speculators in Bitcoin right now. There's none of that. There's just people who believe in Bitcoin, who want to continue stacking Bitcoin, or the whales who want to continue stacking as well. So it's really no speculation going on. And last couple things to end the video off, we have Cathie Wood saying the bear market in Bitcoin crypto may be almost over. She says things all the time. Sometimes she's right, sometimes she's wrong. In the past, during this Tesla stuff, she looked like a genius, but recently she looked rather not like a genius. So we'll see. We'll take that with a grain of salt on what she says. And then also, Bitcoin will share the same fate as the internet. This is a newspaper from a long time, like this is from 2000. So this is December 5th, 2000, saying the internet may be just a passing fad as millions give up on it. That sounds exactly what people have been saying about Bitcoin. Bitcoin may be just a passing fad, this and that, and we don't think it'd actually do anything. And it continues to move forward, even though people continue to say that. So it could have the same fate as the internet, where everyone can't imagine their life without the internet today. That could be in 2030, 2040, 2050. Maybe people can't imagine their life without Bitcoin then. But Bitcoin looking pretty good. The Bitcoin pizza day, can't imagine spending $300 million for some pizza. Looking back at that, if I was that person to do that, I would be kicking myself. But again, it was a pretty important transaction in the history of Bitcoin that kind of legitimized things. But I don't think I'd want to be the person to legitimize it. I'd rather have the 10,000 Bitcoin. But as always, guys, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in my next video.